here showing their wares, as well as the Illinois manufacturers that are the customers of these folks. So I just wanted to highlight that in case you want to show any of the machines while you're also talking about whatever else you want to discuss today. So, yes, hi, Tina. Okay, I thought you were excited about the machines.
Yes,
okay.
I am as well. Any reaction to President Trump last night saying that he might be sending troops to another state with a cooperative governor, and then also these cases that DHS is highlighting, you know, on Twitter, he's highlighting some people that they've detained. What is the reason that they have not been sent away? They're blaming you, so wondering whose fault is it that these people are in this country?
Well, let's start with, I know that he wants to conflate the idea that, you know, we have immigrants in this country and the fact that we have crime in this country. Those are two very different things. It happens that crime does get committed by people who immigrate to the United States, but by the way, it's at a lower rate than people who are born here and live here full time. So, and then I don't know what to say about, I mean, from, each day it seems like the president is deciding, maybe he read something in the newspaper and he'll send troops to Portland or perhaps to New Orleans or perhaps to Chicago. And so I'm always glad to know he's not sending them to Chicago. We don't need them. There is not an emergency in Chicago that requires military troops on the ground. And so I hope he does not send them into any other American cities, because I do not think, if there is not an emergency or an insurrection, that anyone in this country deserves to have their city invaded by military troops led by the President of the United States.
Governor Pritzker?
Yeah.
Given the President's comments last night that he might be sending military National Guard somewhere else, do you consider that a win if it turns out that he doesn't actually send National Guard here? And are you worried at all about the narrative that he might be trying to create, that you are somehow asking for National Guard and somehow defending?
I'm not worried at all about any narrative around this. Here's what I know. We have asked the federal government and always have said that we would like more FBI, more ATF, more DEA, because we're always trying to interdict more drugs or guns, or to arrest gang members and people who are committing heinous crimes in our state. And so civilian law enforcement is what we would like help with. We do not want military troops. And so the more, he recognizes, if he'd like to help us fight crime, because we want to fight crime and we are working very hard on it. By the way, our crime rate has gone way down in the city of Chicago and across the state of Illinois, but we always want more help. Everything about that topic is something that I've been working on for years. And indeed, you've seen some of the progress with, the homicide rate now cut in half, and virtually every violent crime rate in the state of Illinois down by double digits, and in the city of Chicago down by double digits. So I would love it if he would restore funding for police, would restore funding for violence interruption programs, which we are the best in the country at, I might add. But it seems like he likes to defund police and then complain about crime.
Governor, your sources that you've leaned on in the past in these press conferences, these patriots you're talking about in the administration, have they signaled to you, or have you learned from any of your colleagues across the country that indeed the turret is swinging in a different direction?
I wouldn't say it that way. I would say that those folks are not calling us. They were calling us to let us know what they had been hearing, that in fact there could be National Guard or other military troops brought to the state of Illinois. They're not calling us now, which I think is a good sign. It is a sign that they are not hearing things that are suspiciously like we're going to see military troops coming. So I would just say, I'm not saying anything definitive other than I take it that the silence of the last day or two from those folks is an indication that maybe there's some other place or other focus that the president is putting his attention.
And given what you said about the president's sort of manic behavior, what would ever give you the sense that this is put to rest once and for all, ever? I
hope I was not unclear in answering, and I won't be in answering your question as I might have been with Olivia, which is I'm not convinced that we're not going to see military troops on the ground. We don't know. I mean, I wish the president would, again, recognize that military troops in American cities are something that just doesn't belong. And he should not be ordering them into American cities. Again, civilian law enforcement, please, would love the help and restore the funding that helps us reduce crime.
Governor, do you
Governor.
have concerns about political violence in the wake of what happened today in Utah? The activist Charlie Kirk was being shot.
Yeah, first I want to express my sympathy to Charlie Kirk's family and to Charlie Kirk, who obviously has, become a target for somebody. I don't know whether it's political violence because I don't know who did it. I know they seem to have somebody in custody. But I will say that political violence, unfortunately, has been ratcheting up in this country. We saw the shootings, the killings in Minnesota. We've seen other political violence occur in other states. And I would just say it's got to stop. And I think there are people who are fomenting it in this country. I think the president's rhetoric often foments it. We've seen the January 6th rioters who clearly, have tripped a new era of political violence. And the president, what did he do? He pardoned them. I mean, what kind of signal does that send to people who want to perpetrate political violence? Not a good one.
Governor, this may be hard
Sir.
to know, but have you seen or heard any examples of ICE going beyond its scope? We're hearing stories of they are targeting, criminal suspects who are unauthorized to be in the country. That's sort of been the focus so far in terms of what we've heard.
Yeah, they say that, but as you know, and every time they've effectuated their raids, they seem not to actually go arrest people who are the people who've performed any kind of violent crime. Instead, they're just grabbing anybody who speaks with an accent or has brown skin. And so I worry about that, being the method that they're effectuating now that they're here. I have not heard any specific instances like what you're describing might occur. I mean, I would like them, listen, violent criminals who are undocumented should not be in this country or in this state. I don't know how many times I can say that or if there's a better way to say that, but I want to be clear about that. I would like violent criminals not to be on the streets of Chicago, Illinois, or the United States. But that is not what they're doing. That is not what they're doing. They may be saying that that's what they're doing, but Tom Homan himself has admitted, essentially, that they're not just going after those violent criminals. They're just anybody that's in this country that might be partially documented or undocumented, or, as we've seen, he doesn't say this, but they're just rounding up people who may be here legally in this country, including U.S. citizens. And the Supreme Court has now paved the way for them to just racially profile people and grab them. So I'm deeply concerned about that. I hope that does not happen. They clearly have not gone out in full force yet here with seemingly the number of people from ICE that they intended to have on the ground working. We haven't seen all of those folks yet, but I anticipate that we will.
Governor, what impact are these policies, the immigration policies, as well as tariffs, honestly, having on businesses, particularly small businesses, and since we're here in manufacturing? What are you hearing there?
I appreciate the question about tariffs. I really was just walking with one of the manufacturers on the floor who is selling product here, employs people in the state of Illinois. They cannot import their product without suffering tariffs. And many of their competitors the same. And this is equipment that small businesses on the ground in our state need. And now those small businesses are paying more for this equipment by sometimes 20 or 30%. So you can imagine how that affects the business's ability to grow or their ability, frankly, to replace equipment that might be getting old in order to become more productive and more competitive worldwide. So I'm deeply concerned. These are taxes. Tariffs are taxes that customers in the United States, whether they're business customers or individuals, pay as a result of Trump's tariff taxes.
And then on the immigration point as well, if you could, just the impact you're seeing on businesses from the increased presence in Chicago.
So I think there are two impacts that I think we can all easily identify. One of them is that there are people who have been here for many, many years who are following the law, paying taxes, holding down jobs, raising families. They live in our neighborhoods, friends and neighbors of all of us, who are either being rounded up and taken away or too afraid to go to work. And so if you're a business person, you've been employing somebody who's doing a good job and doing everything they're supposed to do if they're in this country, and all that they're missing is the proper documentation, may, by the way, have just overstayed a visa, a work visa, for example, then those companies are suffering from not having the manpower of those folks available. I think the second impact is people who are in mixed status families. So a family that might have a U.S. citizen and somebody who's only partially or who's undocumented, right? May all be living together. They're afraid. The people who are documented, the people who are U.S. citizens, may also be afraid. They may need to try to protect the rest of their families, and they can't go to work. Because if you're getting picked up just for being black or brown or just for having an accent, then once again, what Donald Trump is doing is impeding what we know is lawfully, performing employees working for businesses in the state of Illinois. So it's bad for business, and that's why you saw at the first press conference that I held about this a couple of weeks ago, you saw the business community standing right there visibly with me, because they want to express to the president and to the federal government that these policies, whether it's sending troops in or taking our workers away, are bad for business, bad for the economy, bad for the people of Illinois.
Governor, as you know, Pam Bondi was in Bensonville today announcing this raid on vaping products. Your thoughts on her choice of Illinois to do this? And also, while she was there, took another shot at basically saying that the crime in Chicago is the worst, and the problem is that the government here will not cooperate with President Trump.
Well, I know that President Trump's avid followers, and particularly those who are under his thumb in Washington, are just going to repeat the things that Donald Trump says. So I'm not at all surprised that Pam Bondi has said those things. As to the raid on the vaping manufacturers, I understand. All I can say is that remember what the vaping is about. It's hemp manufacturing and usage. And I'm deeply concerned, I think some of you know, about intoxicating hemp in this state. And we are going to have to do something, either legislatively or from the executive branch, to stop the sale of intoxicating hemp without any regulation whatsoever in this state. It literally is making our children sick, and it is a shame on legislators and on this state that we are not already doing something about it. We need help from the legislature to make it happen, or if not, we may need to impose executive authority to try to shut those sales of intoxicating hemp down.
Quickly on the Bears, please. From the Bears CEO says they're focused on Arlington Heights. They're going to build a stadium without state help. They need legislators to give them property tax relief. What have you said? What conversations have you had with the Bears about that? And have you seen a property tax proposal that you're willing to support?
So first, the state of Illinois, I think, as you know, believes that private businesses should be partners with the state wherever we can help them. That includes the Chicago Bears. It includes lots of other businesses. We provided lots of incentives and worked with them to provide infrastructure, et cetera. Second, I have said directly to the Bears in the past, I want them to stay in the city of Chicago. That doesn't mean they're going to. They're a private business. They can go wherever they would like to go. But I would like them to stay in the city of Chicago, partly because I'm a Bears fan, and I would like them to be somewhere nearby for Chicago fans who live in Chicago. And lastly, I'm going to, I have not talked to the Bears recently, so this is not from anything that's happened in the last, several weeks, actually. I haven't had any conversations with them. They've not come to talk to me about it. But look, first we need the Bears to pay off what's owed on the existing stadium. So that's going to be a really important feature of whatever happens going forward. And if they want a pilot bill or some other help we're going to make that a prerequisite for something like that happening.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor.